Good morning. You would raise your right hand for me. Solemnly swear or affirm testimony given this cause to be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the true self to God. Okay, have a seat right here. There's a rule of evidence in effect. It says you cannot be in court unless you're testifying. And once you have testified, don't discuss your testimony with anybody else, okay? Gonna need for you to speak up.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Okay. Ms. Anderson.
Miss Sullivan, how are you?
Hi. I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing well. Are you a little nervous about being here?
Yes.
Have you ever testified before?
No.
Ever been involved with anything like this before?
Not to this.
We are not going to refer to you by your first and last name. And just for your comfort, we have made sure that your face has been blurred out by the cameras, okay?
Thank you.
Ms. Sullivan, how do you know Tanner Horner?
He is my second cousin.
How does that work? He
My
all fall in the family tree.
father's sister, Jackie, she's my aunt, and then his mother is my cousin, Melissa, and then Tanner would be her son.
You had mentioned Tanner's mother. How do you know her? You said
She's my first cousin.
Did you ever, did you know Tanner as a child?
As a baby and a toddler, I babysat him.
For how long did you babysit?
It was a few months, different periods. Like, it was during the summer when I was around 10, and then the next summer when I was around 11. But then after that, I no longer babysat him.
I understand that you babysat Tanner, but did Melissa ever babysit?
Yes, she used to babysit us when we were younger for my dad, yeah.
So it sounds like a circle.
Mm-hmm, yes.
How was she as a babysitter?
She was...
Is this difficult for you?
Yeah.
We can take breaks as needed, Miss Sullivan.
My cousin, she was awesome. I looked up to her a lot. She was full of life then. She was a different person back then. I met my best friend because of her. She just was full of life then, that's all I can say. She was a happy person then.
Very different from the way she is today?
I don't recognize her.
How was Melissa as a babysitter?
She was fun, exciting, loved it when she came over. She was probably one of my favorite babysitters, and we had a lot. She kept us busy. There was me and my 3 brothers, so she had her hands full. She liked to play Fly to the Moon, where she'd kick us off her feet. She would take us to the park. She'd walk us around the neighborhood. She just had so much energy.
Miss Sullivan, how old were you when you began babysitting Tanner?
I think I was around 10-ish.
At the time, did you have any babysitting experience?
No.
And when you babysat him, was it just for a few hours at a time, or for what period of time?
No, it would be the weekend. I mean, it was started when he was an infant. She had to teach me how to bottle feed him, change his diaper, things like that. I really didn't have a clue. But even the first weekend, she left me alone all weekend with an infant.
And I'm going to stop you right there for a second. You're 10 years old, taking care of an infant.
Yes.
And you're alone for the weekend.
Yes. She worked all weekend.
And you spent the night over there?
Yes.
Did she ever check in with you over the weekend?
In the beginning, she would come home late at night or in the next morning. I would see her, and she would, feed us, show me what's going on for the day, what snacks, this and that. She would converse with me, and then she'd go on back to work. Yeah. It was late in the evening when she'd go to work.
Oh, okay. Do you know where she was working?
I knew it was a bar.
Do you know what kind of bar it was?
I did not know at the time.
Did you find it odd that as a 10-year-old you were being asked to take care of an infant?
Yes, it was very odd, but I also felt like, wow, she must think I'm pretty responsible, I didn't realize then, no, I really don't think I was.
So your perception today is a little different
Oh, yeah.
than it was then?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, Ms. Sullivan, how often would you babysit Tanner?
When it was the summertime, it was pretty regular every weekend.
You said that you would spend the night over there. What was the neighborhood like where Ms. Horner lived at the
It was
time?
usually apartments, and she would always have that talk with me, because she would leave me money in case we wanted to go to the corner store and get things, and she would tell me, this isn't the safest neighborhood, you need to be careful, you need to watch your back, you need to be careful if you're going to go. She's like, I'd just rather you not go, but I understand if you want to get out, and if you want to take Tanner to the park, just please be careful. And I always would. I'd be really careful, I'd always be really nervous. The community was very scary.
When Ms. Horner would leave you for the weekend, would she leave you everything that you needed to take care of Tanner for the weekend?
Yes, and then some.
And then some? What do you mean by and then some?
Well, the following summer, he was more crawling around, potty trained. I would start a babysitting again for her, and this time around, I had already been dabbling with.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
But did she leave you a well-stocked kitchen?
Yes.
Okay, so
Snacks, food, drinks, instructions. She would leave numbers on the fridge for me to get in contact with anybody and everybody, including her. Yeah.
So basically everything that a loving parent would leave for their child.
Yes.
When you babysat with Tanner over those weekends, did you know if it was, when you first got there, if it was going to be for the night or for the weekend?
No, I knew it was for the weekend.
What kinds of things would y'all do together, you and Tanner?
Watch cartoons, play, eat, walk to the park, go to the store, lounge around.
Now, you talked about what Ms. Horner was like when she was babysitting you. What was she like when you were babysitting Tanner?
I'm not understanding.
Well, we talked about, before you had said that Ms. Horner was full of life and would play games with you when she babysat you. And now you're babysitting her son. Was she still full of life at that time? Had she?
Yes, but she seemed more stressed. Didn't have time. Always gone. Always seemed stressed. Yeah, but she seemed like she was always trying. Like she was always trying to put in a good face, and so she was always trying. Yeah.
At the time, could you tell if she had been, was drinking or doing drugs?
Yeah. So I'm not sure really how it came about, but eventually, yes, I did realize, yeah.
And how could you tell?
Well, basically the following summers when she wanted me to come back to start babysitting him again, and this time she was like, do you want cash as payment again? And I was like, yeah. She's like, or do you want weed? And I was like, oh, well, yeah. That would be great too. So I had just gotten into that kind of area of stuff and things, and so.
How old were you at the time?
I was about 11, 12, yeah.
Now, she started paying you with weed, she was paying you with cash. Were you well paid?
Yes.
Okay. Where was Tanner's father during all of this?
I don't know. He wasn't there. I've never met him that I know of.
Ms. Sullivan, when did you stop babysitting Tanner?
So my father, we moved in with my mom when I was 13 on the south side of Fort Worth. And then I kind of got lost in the city life and wrong crowds. And I stopped talking to them. I didn't want to babysit anymore, you know.
You had your other life
Yeah,
going on?
yeah.
Now, Ms. Sullivan, we talked about Ms. Horner as a babysitter, and we talked about her providing for you while you were babysitting her son. Based upon your observations of Ms. Horner and Tanner, do you think she was a good mom?
At the time, you mean?
We'll start at the time.
Yes, at the time, yes.
And looking back now?
She was struggling. She did her best. She tried. Yeah.
Like the desire was there, but the ability not?
Yeah.
Ms. Sullivan, I want to talk to you now about Tanner, about your cousin. You said that he was an infant when you started babysitting him. So he was still in diapers?
Yes.
So you were the one that helped change his diapers and feed him and give him the bottle,
Yes.
and you helped putting him to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Where was he sleeping at the time? Was he in a crib or did he have his own bed?
It was a crib.
What kinds of things would y'all do together when you would babysit?
Play with all the little kid toys. Watch a lot of cartoons. I would talk on the phone a lot. I was a teenager. We would go to the park. I'd walk to the store and get us snacks.
Was he an active child?
Yeah, he would have a lot of spurts of energy.
When you say spurts of energy, give us an example of what you mean by that.
Like, it's hard to explain. So my brother has ADHD, and he would get extremely hyper and excited. It was kind of like that, but as a little infant, if that makes, like a toddler, if that makes sense. But he would run around fast, speeding through, you know, and it's just a kid to me, you know.
A lot of energy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Did you have to keep a close eye on him?
Yes.
Would he ever get into things?
Yes.
What kinds of things would he get into?
I remember a big part of it was the coins we had to keep up, put away from him. It was like a piggy bank. He would eat a lot of coins.
He would what?
Eat a lot of coins, change, and then he'd poop them out. And I just remember a bunch being in the bottom of the toilet every time I'd wipe his butt. And I always thought that was strange, and Melissa would always be like, keep the change put away. We have to keep the change up.
So how old was he at the time?
And he was able to run around, like crawl around, run around, walk around.
All right, so you had to keep the coins put away because Tanner would eat them?
Yeah, almost like an obsession.
And after he ate them, he would poop them out?
Yes.
Would he ever try to grab them after he had pooped them out?
I do not recall that, but yeah, I don't recall.
How often did this happen?
In the beginning, it was a regular basis. That's why it was such an issue, to make sure you keep the coins put away.
Were you ever concerned about him doing this?
I thought it was odd, but I also thought it was funny. I mean, I didn't was a kid.
And I think you told us that you had to put the coins up. Where did you have to put them?
Well, I never brought change in. And if I went to the store and got change, that's when I'd make sure they were put up high or in a bowl where he couldn't get to them.
And again, how often would this happen? That every time he saw change?
Yeah, if there was change around, it was inevitable.
And so that's why you had to take those precautions? Ms. Sullivan, over the years that you babysat Tanner, did you have the chance to watch his personality develop?
It was a small period of time, but yeah, a little bit.
And at some point, did you ever begin to think that he was just a little different from the other kids?
I kind of always thought he was a little different, but being so young, I just thought he was a kid.
And now being older?
Now being older, I look back and I realize he was a little different.
Why do you say he was a little different?
He would have real high highs and real low lows, and sometimes he would just be in the corner by himself, and I wouldn't really know why. And, you know, now that I'm older and a parent, I look back, I'm like, oh, well, maybe he was pooping in his diaper. But at that time, it was just such an extreme. He would be going and running and hyper, and then all of a sudden quiet. And I'd go in there and he's just sitting in the corner.
What was he doing in the corner?
Nothing.
Was he facing the corner, or was he facing out into the room?
Usually he was facing the corner.
So he would put himself in timeout?
Kind of, yeah.
You had mentioned the word extreme. What did you mean when you said that he would have extreme highs and extreme lows?
Sometimes he'd get so hyper, it'd almost be aggressive. Like, or his fits would be a little aggressive, more than I would think that it was necessary.
When you say aggressive, are you talking about aggressive towards you?
Yeah, just in general and fit throwing. Like,
Did he ever try to hit you?
There may have been an occasion, but it was usually with fit throwing. It wasn't like he was intentionally hitting me, you know.
Were you afraid that he was going to hit you or kick you intentionally?
It wasn't a concern of mine because he was so little.
At any time when he had these fits, could you tell what the cause of them were?
Usually just not getting his way, or particular snack or show. The real high energy just would come out of nowhere, you know.
When he had the fits, were you able to calm him down?
Yes, it would take a while.
What would you do to calm him down?
Sometimes I try to hold him. He didn't like that. I would try to direct his attention to something more fun, or just try to distract him.
Were you ever at a point where you couldn't control him and had to call his mom?
There would be times I would call her, lots of times, because, like I said, I was young. I didn't know a whole lot. So I would probably call her in the beginning really 2 or 3 times a night.
And by the time that you stopped babysitting for Tanner, did those calls become less frequent?
Yes. Yeah, near the end I wasn't calling at all for any reason. And that was usually when I wouldn't see her the whole weekend. Like I said, in the beginning she would come home late at night or the next morning checking on us. But then the following summer, as I was older and he was a little older, and we kind of got a little more routine, you know, it was easier.
Mm-hmm. Ms. Sullivan, you previously talked about some of the things that you would do while you babysat Tanner. When you were there, did you play with him more often, or did he play by himself more often?
I would say he played with himself more often.
Could you tell, based upon your observations, if that was his choice?
Usually, yes.
What would he play when he was by himself? What was he doing?
I don't recall.
That's fine if you don't. When he was playing by himself, did he seem to enjoy being by himself?
I don't know about enjoyed, but content.
Did you ever try to distract him and get his attention to maybe come back and play with you?
Yes.
Were you able to do that?
Sometimes.
What kinds of things would you do to try to get his attention?
Bring out some of his toys, light up things, noisemakers, turn on a certain show, things like that.
Now, for the times that you were able to get his attention back to playing together, did that last, or would he go off by himself again?
He'd always go off by himself again.
Ms. Sullivan, I want to talk to you a little bit about Tanner's communication skills. When you were babysitting him, did you ever have difficulty trying to communicate with him?
There was no communication with us, not verbally.
What do you mean by that?
He was too young still, to really talk.
And by the time that, I want to back up a second. You said that you had babysat him from the time he was an infant, and how many years had you babysat?
I want to say it was about 2 consecutive summers, if I can remember correctly. Because the first summer he was an infant, and then the second summer he was crawling and kind of stumble walking.
And then I think you had a third summer where he was walking?
It was during the potty training, and he was kind of walking, yeah.
Was he at all verbal with you?
Very little.
Being a mother, comparing Tanner's communication skills at that age and your child's communication skills at their age, were they the same or was one delayed?
I feel like his was delayed.
Were there times that you had difficulty understanding him when you were trying to communicate with him?
Yes, all the time.
Now, Ms. Sullivan, looking back on your time spent babysitting Tanner, did you have fun?
Yes.
And did you enjoy babysitting him?
Yes.
And why?
Because it gave me a little bit of freedom, responsibility, cash in my pocket. Sometimes I'd get to see my cousin,
At that time how would you describe Tanner as, would you say that he was affectionate, not affectionate, sweet kid, not a sweet kid? How would you describe him?
He was a pretty happy kid. Yeah, he was pretty good, go-lucky, happy, joyful kid, it seemed like, yeah.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes.